Hello everyone, welcome to the Power Collab February edition. And today we are going to highlight some insights around the Dynamic 365 and the Power Platform release Wave 1. And as we promised in our last January edition. So if you have not watched yet, then please find the link in the details section below of this video and see some important aspects, tips and tricks around the Dataverse. So today our experts have a lot of surprises in their magic bucket, so to share with you all. But I would like to start with something very important as we always talk about, the highlights from the Wave 1 release or Wave releases, Wave 1, Wave 2, what you like most, what you did not like most, something like that, and the demos around there. But I will be giving you some insights around the key dates, milestones, and how to opt out the updates early as possible. So, the solutions that are based on the Dynamic 365 and the Power Platform, and as well as the cloud for the industry, receive the service updates in 2 annual release waves. So the release plans provide information about the new and the changed capabilities here. Now let's talk about some of the important dates and the milestones against that. So on January 25th, 2024, we had an availability of the release plan, the first release plan, the first teaser, where we can learn about the new capabilities coming in 2024 release wave 1, which is basically between the April 2024 to the September 2004 across the Dynamic 365 Power Platforms and the Microsoft Cloud for the industry. On the February 5th, 2024, or the first Monday, that is generally counted as the first Monday of the February month, we had early access available, which means makers can test, can validate the new features and the capabilities that will be the part of 2024 release wave 1, and which is coming in the April before they enable automatically, for the end users. And on the February 19th, 2024, release plans were available in additional languages, where the Microsoft Power Platform and the Dynamic 365 release plans are published, I think, in 11 additional language, which could be Danish, Dutch, Finnish, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Norwegian, Portuguese, which is the Brazilian subset, and the Spanish and Swedish. So Microsoft Cloud industry release plans are published in an additional, the 4 languages, which is the French, German, Dutch, and Spanish in this state. Finally, on the April 1st, 2024, the production deployment for the 2024 release wave 1 begins, and that should be rolled out for everyone by the end of the April in all of the regions without any delay. Now, each of the major releases included features that may affect the user experience. So you may opt in the early access to update the new releases. So use the early enrollment period to validate the new functionalities to avoid the last minute surprises. Also, please find the note for for each releases you must opt in for the early access update. It is not going to be automatically if you want an early upgrade or early updates. Also, for each environment that you wanted to be updated, you must opt in. It is not at the tenant level right now available, best of my knowledge, and it might take a few hours to complete the updates. So all the application in the environments are still available during the update. Nothing is going down, but you might experience slightly reduce the performance issues or something. Also, you can get early access updates in the production environment. We highly recommend that you can create a copy of your production environment as a sandbox environment and try out the new features first. Because please remember, the update can't be reverted after they have been deployed. So there is no reversion possible. Therefore, you test it, validate it, test it again, and update in the sandbox environment before enabling them to the production environment. You can determine, the impact that have they will have on the users in your organizations before making any operations there. So the simple thing, validate and test the updates in the sandbox environment before rolling out to the production. There is no workaround. There is no shortcut around that. I would also like to share my learning from a couple of years back around the Dynamic 365 marketing app. And the tip is that be sure to turn on the early access update in the Power Platform admin center first. If you run the Dynamic 365 marketing setup wizard to update your marketing app to a new release wave, before activating the early access update, you have to do this or rerun this Dynamic 365 marketing setup wizard again after opting in and install and deploy the early access feature. So make sure you enable the update first, or you did this before running the wizard. Now, before I come to this point, I would quickly like to show you directly on the browser how to opt in. So you have an Power Platform Admin Center. Simply go to the environment or select any of the environment where you want to opt in this. And then based on that one, you can simply go to the environment settings, or simply select any of the environment and just open in the detail view. And once you are in the detail view, you can simply go to the update section where you just put the manage there. And in the manage, you have an option here to update now. Just click in there. And as it also gave a warning notification that this can't be undone, and also the performance may be impacted until we are doing so. So now quickly back to the slide. And now I would like to quickly give my top six, Microsoft Copilot Studio features which probably I'm expecting is going to be rolled out there. The first one is use the generative actions there. So the generative action fundamentally reimaging Copilot building by focusing the makers to manage plugins and maintain artifacts. So business can save a lot of time as a makers, and you don't need to build copilots manually. And all the things can be done by this generative actions. Also, you can use the generative AI insights and the other analytical enhancement, which is definitely saving a lot of the time, because if we can instantly take an action to address the low customer satisfactions or the CSAT and improve the deflection rates there. So you can make an immediate action there in that case. Also, Microsoft Copilot Studio that enable the users for the own encryption key, which is hosted definitely on the Microsoft Azure Key Vault, to govern how to how Copilot Studio encrypts your Copilot content, ensuring your Copilot control over how your data is stored and the rest of the things. You can also deploy the Copilot for the WhatsApp and Azure Communication Service Chat. Now, probably it is more interested for Thomas now in the call, and the SMS channels. So, the WhatsApp channel support in the Microsoft Copilot Studio, which is going to be enable the customer in many markets to access a large audience, which was previously not available. Also, Azure Communication Services for the chat integrate and enable the customers to engage with the audience in their custom solutions, build the communication service chat, and so on. And also communication service SMS bring the native SMS support to the Microsoft Copilot Studio. So you don't have to look for any other integration or custom plugin or the action now. Also, you can import and export the topics across the Copilots into different environment, which definitely, boosts the ISVs to accelerate the solution building for the different customers. The last but not the least, that you can use the IVR with the omni channels for the customer service. So what does it mean that you have a now native voice integration with the Microsoft Copilot Studio will dramatically improve the experience of building voice-enabled bots for the customer, which they are using the voice channels for the omni channel for the customer service example. Which also including the voice responses and analysis. Your bot can increase the ways in which the customers interact, with your business, and definitely voice integrations can provide faster, more efficient resolution to the common question and improve your deflection rates to the customer satisfaction scores. I think that is all from my side. So please don't forget to subscribe and share the channels.
I will jump in at this point. So from my side, there are two features coming with the release wave in April that I want to highlight. The first one is the possibility to mask sensitive data. And this will allow admins to define rules which data should be masked and will then not be visible. And this also applies, and that's also an important topic as far as the documentation says for contact centers. So, for example, also for transcriptions, this demo and for this data is masked and not visible. And the second topic is one also from my personal favorites. When I'm at conferences, I'm often talking about importance of data modeling in Dataverse, and that you have to think about your data model first. And now, with this release update, there will be the option to build visually tables and use Copilot, create entity relationship data inside the Maker portal. And yeah, I think this will really help to improve the data models, especially if you're not familiar with Dataverse and the impact of the data model, how to build relationships. So this will be really, hopefully, a help for lots of makers starting with Dataverse. So then I will hand over now to Marius. And Michael, hopefully your demo will work. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jürgen. Then I can keep my share alive. I have brought to you some topics from Dataverse as well. One I'm waiting for years, really. So this is a pro dev thing. In plugins, you will be able to use managed identities. And so with managed identities, you can connect to Azure resources and only some Azure resources, not all of them. But the point is it works for the Key Vault. Azure Key Vault is a store for secrets. So if you can access this Key Vault securely, you can get any other credentials from there without saving them in an unsecure place. And so this is the bootstrap basically to having all other authentication mechanisms like certificates, client secrets, and so on. So a really big feature. It will be in public preview in April. So yeah, expect to hear more from that later. Then I've noticed this is technically not the new release wave. It was released in November, but I saw it when I checked the release planner. And the dependent plugin assemblies. So this is, I call it plugin packages. You have a NuGet package where you have multiple assemblies in one, and that you can deploy that to Dataverse. I'm slightly troubled by the timeline here because it said it went to public preview in June, and I wrote my article about this earlier than that. So I'm not sure what happened there, but I probably need to update it because it's no longer in preview. So we can really use that in production use case right now. And an interesting thing, I don't think this is a game changer. You can, so they have big words for this and share apps and data access modernization. And in the end, the details tell you more about, okay, when you share an app, so a model-driven app, we will automatically create a security role for that. And you can see this pattern with the Sales Enterprise App Access, for example, which allows you access to the Sales Enterprise app, or it's called Sales Hub app now. But yeah, okay, you have a security role which is specifically for accessing an app. And that's what they are generating automatically. And this solves also the question, is it best practice to assign the apps to job roles like sales manager and salesperson, or should you have a separate role for the app access? And yeah, well, Microsoft has both in here in the standard, but they are leaning more to separate security roles. The last thing here is you can also now, just like you can with forms, and this will be in March already, so very soon, that you can set a security role to a view. This is possible for forms for years now, but it was never possible for views. And if you had a lot of views, everyone could see those views unless you exclude them from the app. And now you can make this by security role. Public preview in March, availability in June, so that's quite soon. That's it from my side. I would hand over to Bülent.
Then let me also share my screen with you as well. and hope it's visible to you. Good. Awesome. So I will reference more about one of my favorite topics in Power Platform. It's about Canvas apps. But before I go to this, I need to highlight a feature from the Dataverse updates. And one of these things is, and I was already shivering all the time, please don't mention it. Please don't mention it, Marius, because you had already all that list about Dataverse. Process app data more efficiently with delegation. So if you're familiar with Canvas apps, you know what I'm talking about. So in Canvas apps, usually you are allowed officially up to 2,000 data records in a Canvas app. The reason for this is because all the data from a data source will be copied into the Canvas app. And with that approach, Microsoft guarantees that your app is still reacting fluently. Just imagine you would have 1 million data there. Obviously, then it would not work that good anymore. So there are tips and tricks how you can bypass that, but they are not really officially supported by Microsoft. But with that here, and it only works with Dataverse, the data is not copied locally into your app anymore. It remains in Dataverse and you have more or less real-time access to it. So that means that you can also work with more as 2,000 data. That only works with Dataverse. Canvas apps are supporting not only Dataverse, but also other databases as well. Whereas when I'm saying now SharePoint is not really a database, right? So, but other data sources, obviously. It doesn't work with other sources, but with Dataverse, it's really, really exciting just to see. And GA will be already in April. And I think that could be especially a game changer. So whoever is building Canvas apps and working with Dataverse, they finally will have not that yellow warning then in the app, because that was always annoying and on our course is always a topic, obviously. So now let us jump over to Canvas apps, because there are some features which I say are fantastic. I waited for that. It's already mentioned by Jürgen, that one with a visualization and work with complex data using Copilot. So you're building your data model, and especially if you're new to this, obviously it's hard to see how they are influencing each of the tables. So if you're getting a visualization with that entity relationship diagram, obviously it makes easier to understand how the data model is working. So that's really huge, and I'm also waiting for that feature as well. One of the fun features is this one here, which is coming in March already. Use modern screen templates to easily build Canvas app screens. So Canvas apps exist since a few years now, and every time when I push people to templates, like here, let's see how a Canvas app templates look. These are very outdated. So from 2018, 2019. If people are using that, for example, they're getting still a working template and they can play with, but they can't change the data source. So it's still working with a very outdated and old Dataverse connector, the legacy one, and not with a new one. And you can't add any new data sources. So if someone comes to the idea of I save myself time and I just use a template and work with that, that does not work. So you can't add any data sources there. And finally, they're updating that after, I would say, nearly 6 years with new ones. And we're looking for these because also some of the templates had really some kind of old code there, So in the meanwhile, new code has been integrated with PowerFX, for example, and all that stuff. So I think this is really cool. What is also great is this part here. So Canvas apps doesn't work only in solutions. So solutions is good, but if you don't use Dataverse, you don't have solutions. That means you can also save a Canvas app with, I think, with a file and MS app, and can save it and work it, but the user experience of that is not really great to share that. Especially it's documented, but not quite good documented. You can't find it, and it's always, some kind of pain to explain to someone how it works. Once you know how it works, but you get now YAML files with that. They're better readable. You can check them into some kind of GitHub or DevOps or what your favorite source is where you want to check this in. And it will be also more maintainable if you're not using them, let's say, in a solution. So solution still with Dataverse still the best way to go, if you ask me. But this is also what Microsoft will bring out. So there's only preview there. So that's no GA and so on. So we don't know when it will really go live. So Microsoft is testing that out as us, banana testing. And last but not least, then I will hand over is what I also like is testing. Obviously, something where we can save money, documentation and testing, obviously. So good, we have Copilot for that. So Copilot can now document all our stuff, obviously. And now with testing, Microsoft promised that generative AI testing will come. So a lot of test cases will be generated. And then because in projects, really testing is crucial. But I know budget and time, always things which are not there in projects, obviously. The interesting part of that, there's only mentioned by Microsoft in early access, no public preview, no GA, so they will test it out. That can be that this feature will never come to a status that it will be released. It can also be removed if it's not flying. So that happened with some of the features that they were there and we're like, yay, it works. And then Microsoft just have put it away and never came back sometimes. So this will be interesting. And there's much more in the release wave, but that's all for Canvas app, which I think is awesome enough. And then I just pick in that kind, Thomas.
Yeah, that's great. Let me also share something as my topic should be today. Again, something for cross-tenant migrations. And here it should come. I've prepared already a little bit. That should be great, and hopefully you can understand. I just do it today for something which is called, and that, sorry for my beautiful drawing, this is an happy user in the source tenant. And furthermore, we have some parts which I highlight actually here, which is DNS. We are coming to this a little bit later. And we are talking about the flow options. So if we have actually created a flow in the source environment and the user is going to be migrated, the first thing is if we have a user actually sitting here, this user will be transferred to the target site. So far, that should be understandable. But nevertheless, since the DNS system actually here, and I make it a bit bigger, it's still tied to first the source tenant, which means like UPNs on this side are different. And that is one part which you always already need to keep in mind, which means this user is not really look like exactly the user which we have in the target tenant. Why is this so? As long as the DNS name is tied to the source tenant, you cannot assign anything because we don't have domain sharing. Now let me get to a flow and just give you maybe a quick example on this. You just have a flow where you say like if something like mail from, and then you do some kind of actions, right? You can actually, this flow which you have, so I pack it into something, you can export and you can actually also import it on this target environment, import. The thing is now it looks exactly the same. Like I could also say now if mail and so on, and it's doing something. But the first thing is if this mail from was actually tied to another user, let me make the green one here, like to this user, for example, but you are actually here and the other user should be also already here, then you see we have a different UPN, which means like even if you have imported your flow, it is still necessary to be changed at least at some point of time, as long as the UPN is there. If we now, let me make it in red, now we can say we have actually untied the DNS from the source tenant and have it applied to the target tenant. This old UPN or temporary UPN becomes the other UPN again. So which is the old one, like it looked before. Now this flow would work again. But it means if you meanwhile want to have this flow actually working again, you need to use the, I call it temp UPN. So what you see is here is some tasks at least to do for the users when they're in, because there is no kind of automation or mapping of those users, migration tools for application data and so on, permission they are known here and they can do user mappings, but we can't do it anyhow within flows. That's a pretty important part. Furthermore, there is even one part, this flow, if that's a user-based flow. This flow itself is tied to the user account himself. That means there is no admin access. So no admin. Oops, that should be different here. So again, admin. So admin. The admin cannot actually touch this flow. So that means like the export function is also part of this Hooray user. That also makes it a little bit possible or impossible to schedule, because when you are migrating, you have a lot of communication change, and communication parts are very crucial to any kind of tenant-to-tenant migration. That is valid, by the way, if you merge or if you carve out. It is still the same behavior, but you need to tell the users what to do. You need to tell the users the entire story from left to right, and that is pretty important. Now it just goes a little further. Within all those kind of flows, say it again, flow here, you can have a lot of different connectors. So, and I'm talking in general about all kind of connectors. They can even be into an Azure environment. Azure. So that means they can be in any kind of, I call it just simply spoken data, which can be anything which also was introduced right now by my speakers before. We have another issue. Connectors itself, they can't be migrated. So that means there can be a hull at the moment. There is some part, I don't know if that is already in preview, but everyone was talking about it. But literally, you have issues, especially also with the data here, because the location of the data will be different and the connector is not there. So that means also you need to, in flows, but that's valid for apps, for everything else on the Power Platform, you need to completely, say, rebuild. That's important. Now we come to the last problem, and I really try to hope making it short. If anything, it's tied to the Azure side, which is most likely not migrated in parallel. You have an issue even if you have rebuilt your Power Platform flows, apps, whatever, how you want to, because all the Azure resources are actually still, for example, in the source tenant. So that means the access here is even further not possible until also, let me do it like this dotted line, it is migrated. Certain permission maybe probably work, but not all. And that comes again to the topic of rebuild, which also just is one thing, and I cannot emphasize this enough. Let me make it smaller and let me make my green pencil again. That all comes down to one part. Maybe flows not really, but for everything else in Power Platform is like document it like hell. If you haven't documented it and you have written any kind of Power Apps, for example, in the past, and that might be 3, 4, 5 years ago, you actually struggle with the rebuild option here. And that means if you are self-responsible, you are not working with it every day, you still struggle because you most likely forgot what you did, or maybe you better rebuild everything from scratch, what you see, what you can use here in your new target tenant. And I hope that helps you a little bit from the overview why when you have a cross-tenant migration for any kind, again, merger or carve out, it's both the same. Once you have a filled tenant, the other one is an empty one, so it's still the same. Be completely aware, analyze whatever it's in, it's important. Check every kind of connection, definitely, which you have. What kind of data is it? Is there any possibility at least to get data along so that a rebuild of the Flow app can work definitely better? And if there are Azure resources, like, for example, the SQL database in the background, make sure that this SQL database can also be transferred. But again, never ever do M365, Dynamics, and Azure at the same time. It will definitely not work. even not if you staff hundreds of people. Therefore, it needs to be subsequent. And this is one, as we call it, most likely it's the pain in the behind. And also just out of experience, we had a lot of apps which have been developed in the past where the developer actually left the company. Most likely that requires complete reverse engineering, and that makes it further difficult. So also on your side, if you are, for example, a customer who want to just do the merger acquisition carve out, you need to have enough development resources behind to actually get at least the most important Power Platform components back again and get them up and running and working. And don't forget, if DNS changes, you just have to do something else. Yeah, that is from my side, and I hope I stuck really into the 5, 6, 7 minutes. And would be very interesting. And leave some comments below the video, please, if you want to dig a little bit deeper in, so that we can also get you maybe some real life examples on how it looks like and how painful it might be.
Thank you for that. From my point of view, it would be really necessary to dig deeper into that topic because it's quite complex, and to squeeze that into this 6, 7, 8 minute mark is a challenge, actually. I quite followed you.
Yeah, scratching the head. And that will also be happening if you migrate Power Platform.
Obviously, yes. So I just wanted to say my demo now is working, but since the video is already quite long, I would like to push it to a next call, and then I would like to demonstrate how DLPs work with classic data flows, and maybe go into DLPs as well as an overview, because I think that could be quite beneficial. And something else I would like to mention, as you may have seen or noticed that we have more people in the call than usual. We thought about a little something. We thought about teasering the next episodes and maybe the next topics. And I think we have some really, really great topics from Milan and Sweta. So please, Sweta, if you would like to start to tell us what we are going to listen to next time.
Sure, thanks, Michael. Let me quickly share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, so today I would like to share with you one feature for Release Wave 1 that I'm really excited for, and that is this one: create virtual tables to use external data sources. Basically, this feature will let you connect your Power Pages to external data sources such as SQL Server or Microsoft SharePoint using virtual tables. So these virtual tables will then act as Microsoft Dataverse data tables without any data replication, and it can be used in solutions, apps, flows, and more, and can use these virtual tables as if they are native Dataverse tables. I'm really excited for this feature, and it has its public preview tomorrow, March 24, and general availability by April 2024. So when it gets released for public preview, we can try it out, get our hands dirty, and then come up with a working demo for you guys in our next video. So keep tuned. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. That is a really exciting topic. And our other new contributor would be Milad. What are you going to show us in the next episode?
So thanks, Michael. Yeah, the next topic, which I will present the next time, is the usage of service principles within the Power Platform, especially in regards to the ALM. So you all might know the functionality to use Power Platform pipelines in solutions. This has been in GA since around about a year now, and there is a preview feature to deploy pipelines as a service principle. And why is that important, or why is that a very good feature which will come to us, is that people or companies might want to have several permissions on dev, test, and prod, and they don't want that the developers, for example, have the same permissions in dev as in prod. And therefore, service principles are a very nice feature to deploy a solution without having the let's say, higher privileges, for example, to create or change security roles or to create or change Dataverse tables. And yeah, the usage of service principal will be a very good feature for a lot of people to also secure their productive environment while maintaining the same permissions for developers in their dev environment. And how it will look like, this is something we will see the next time. Thanks, Michael.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. I think then we are done with all the topics for this time. And where is Ambesh, our moderator, to close the call?
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
so
he-
much, everyone.
at the bottom.
Yeah,
There
Thomas,
you
you
are.
would like to add something?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so yeah, thank you so much to be here in the call to sharing a lot of insights. It's like definitely, like always, it is really, really, really impactful and helpful. And finger crossed, maybe for the next call, because I can see a lot of things are coming definitely to the next calls. Few are already been teasered out, few are not. They're always like an hidden chamber, and it will be, it will be coming out on the D-Day. And I would then thank to everyone who are in the call, who are watching the recordings later on the YouTube channel. Please subscribe, share with your friends and the colleagues, and maybe they will get some kind of the benefits out of this. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone to be here.